The Browns, Steelers, Cowboys, Broncos, Giants, 49ers. So many teams are on bye this week. It's going to be pretty damn difficult to submit these starting lineups. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to do my best to rank 30 wide receivers deep to help you out, to help you figure out who you should be throwing in that flex spot. But before we get into it, go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. And most importantly, this is a very special week because we were able to bring you a free bet on Underdog Fantasy. You know, about a month ago, for everybody who's used promo code FLOCK, y'all got the Cooper Kupp over under half receiving yard line. Well, you're getting another one this weekend. This time it's going to be Derrick Henry over under half a rushing yard. So if you want to take action in these free bets with us on Underdog, if you want to get your first deposit match dollar for dollar up to 100, make sure you go to the link in the comment section, the link in the description. Sign up for Underdog, use promo code FLOCK, and they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. You can check out all these cool player props and get into some drafts with us in the live stream. But I think that should be about it. Let's go through, dive into tier one, and we have a new player at number one in these rankings. I don't know how long we can go without having Tyreek Hill here. Like, Tyreek Hill, good matchup going up against the Chicago Bears. I mean, hell, we just saw the Dallas Cowboys look like the 2007 Patriots playing Chicago with Tyreek Hill. Let me just do a quick Google search. NFL leaders receiving yards. All right, let's pull this bad boy up because Tyreek Hill is at the top of this list, and it's not even remotely close. Tyreek Hill leading the NFL in receiving yards with 961, leading the NFL in receptions with 69. Hell, this is also without Tua Tagovailoa for a couple of these games. So Tyreek Hill, I think it's hard not to have him at one this point. Next guy, Stefan Diggs, back-to-back with Tyreek leading the NFL in receiving. I think that with Stefan Diggs, hell, he's the number one alpha wide receiver and by far and away the best offense. What is crazy is it doesn't matter who the Buffalo Bills play. Last week, they were double-digit favorites against the Packers. This week, yet again, they're going to be double-digit favorites against the Jets. But just like we saw last week, Buffalo is not one of those teams that will start running the ball in the second half. They're going to keep on throwing it even if they're up. Number three, we are going to have DeAndre Hopkins. The man gets target volume. This offense pushes the pace of play. There's very few target competition. We'll talk about Rondell Moore a little later on in this video. I think you have to have DeAndre Hopkins as a top 5 wide receiver. I mean, I thought I was crazy his first week back in here, ranking him at wide receiver 5 before we saw a single game. Honestly, I think maybe we weren't high enough. Great matchup against Seattle. We are going to have him at 3 because Jefferson doesn't have as good of a matchup. We are going to have Jefferson down here at 4 going up against Washington. Still an elite level wide receiver. I think we just have to bump up all 3 of those veterans, even if they're not as exciting as the young ascending talent. And then at 5, we're going to go Cooper Kupp. I know most people are surprised. See that we don't have Kupp at 1. Kupp should be playing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A little bit worried though. I mean, hell, this is an ankle injury, lower body injuries kind of scare me. I mean, we just saw how it changed Jonathan Taylor. I don't know. It's a good matchup. You're still starting him, obviously. I just don't think we can put him ahead of someone like Tyreek, Diggs, Hopkins, or Jefferson. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go A.J. Brown at 6. Going up against the Houston Texans, the Philadelphia Eagles are favored by 2 touchdowns in this Thursday night game. If Philadelphia was different, if they were like Buffalo, if they were like Tampa, then it didn't matter if they were leading by multiple touchdowns in the second half. They were going to continue to go through and just throw the ball with aggression, then yeah, A.J. Brown would be a tier 1 player. But I'm a little bit worried knowing that this won't be a competitive contest at all. And Philadelphia will run the ball in the second half if they're up by 1 million. Now our next guy, Devonte Adams, going up against Jacksonville. With Devonte Adams, I mean, I told you to start him last week, despite him having the flu. Clearly, I am not Devonte Adams' personal doctor, so I kind of got that one wrong. I'm sorry. I thought that we could overlook it. I think that we can clearly write off that last game because Devonte Adams was sick. I think this offense will be better. I think Adams will be better going forward. Now our next guy, my most drafted receiver, Jaylen Waddle. I mean, you know I got to throw it in there. I mean, with Jaylen Waddle, also a good matchup against the Chicago Bears. With Jaylen Waddle, also top 5 in receiving yards right now. Could not be more excited about our man. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go T. Higgins at 9. With T. Higgins, I'm recording this right before the Monday night game. So please, if Higgins drops 200 receiving yards against Cleveland, maybe we can adjust these just a bit. Don't be screaming at me in the comment section of how dumb I am. I may be dumb, but just know I didn't watch this game yet. Now, next guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 10. With St. Brown, comes in, gets a target volume. I mean, if you just looked at the raw amount of points that the Detroit Lions scored, you would assume that Amon-Ra St. Brown actually had a much better game than he actually did. The issue is, obviously, with the rushing touchdowns going to guys like Jamal Williams and then the one receiving touchdown going to DeAndre Swift. Amon-Ra St. Brown, still super high floor, super high ceiling. Dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go Evans and Godwin back-to-back here. Tampa looks bad. It is hard to ignore the fact that, yes, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers look bad. Tom Brady looks bad. If you are a Bucs fan, you should be worried. But at the same time, what we can say is, hell, they're still throwing the ball. You're still getting 50 passing attempts. You're still getting 300 passing yards a game from Tom Brady. I'm not playing real life. I'm playing fantasy, okay? So I think the passing volume should still be here. Not too worried about the matchup at all against the Rams. The Rams and their defense, nothing close to what it's been in years past. Now our next guy, Chris Olave at 13. With Olave, didn't do much because Kamara put the team on his back and Kamara did all the heavy lifting. Absolutely all of it. I mean, if we have no Thomas, if we have no Jarvis, you still have Olave in a beautiful spot against the Baltimore Ravens, who earlier this year let up 6 passing touchdowns to Tua. Now, our last guy in this tier is going to be Michael Pittman. Would have had the bigger day if it wasn't for the drop. Y'all know I'm not a Michael Pittman fan. You know, we were talking about how overrated Matt Ryan was coming into the season, how Michael Pittman was someone that was not a lock to be a top 10 receiver and he was overhyped. Well, to be completely fair here, the man's had 70 targets on the season. The man's had 51 receptions. The New England Patriots defense is looking like they are slacking a bit. Pittman in a full PPR format is still getting this target volume. He's only had 1 receiving touchdown so far this season. I actually think that he probably gets better, even though he's not necessarily my guy. Now, dropping down to our next tier, Keenan Allen at 15. Of course, you have to monitor the injury reports with Keenan Allen here. But I want to be on record. If Mike Williams misses, which I think we can safely say he will, and if Keenan Allen plays, which I'm sending up a prayer that he will, Keenan Allen is a must-start guy going up against a defense that just let PJ Walker go crazy on him. Okay, Justin Herbert and this Los Angeles Chargers offense going to score approximately 70 points against the Atlanta Falcons. Keenan Allen doesn't have a lot of target competition with no Mike Williams. Hopefully he's 100% healthy coming out of the bye. Now our next receiver, Tyler Lockett at 16. Lockett, every single week I say, oh, okay, well, I think Geno Smith is probably going to take a step back from a fantasy football perspective. I think he's probably not going to go out there and have 300 passing yards. Doesn't matter. I mean, Geno Smith over the past 3 weeks, 197, 210, 212 passing yards. I mean, so the volume's fallen dramatically. It has. But it does not matter when only 2 players in this offense, in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, are drawing targets. I mean, this past week, you had a very good performance from Tyler Lockett as well as DK Metcalf. Lockett, yet again, 8 targets, 5 receptions, 63 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. Looks like a must-start guy at this point. Next player, Tyler Boyd. Can't speak on him too much. We have not watched the Monday night game yet. Of course, I will update you later in the week about Tyler Boyd. Now, our next one, Jacoby Myers at 18. With Myers, I mean, I know Ramondre's gotten all the talk in New England over the past few weeks, but the man's looked very good. This past week, he had all the volume in the world. This past week, 12 targets, 9 receptions, 60 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown. What's hilarious is Myers is always someone that's had the target volume. He just used to not score touchdowns, but clearly that's changed as of late. Now our last guy, Gabriel Davis. Davis, boom bust receiver. Hopefully you listened to us way back when you could have traded him for Waddle, Hopkins, Higgins, the 3 guys we were recommending for. Clearly a fall from grace, but I think this is what you get from Gabe Davis. The highs are going to be high. He's a part of an elite level offense. He is their deep threat. He's attached to Josh Allen. The lows are going to be low. He just simply doesn't draw targets. So you are just relying on that deep ball. I think you like Gabe Davis more in a non-PPR format than you would in a PPR league. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go DK Metcalf at 20. And honestly, this is bad ranking. No, DK Metcalf going to be in the tier above with Davis. With Metcalf, great week this past week after the previous one getting carted off the field. After we thought Metcalf maybe was out for the year, no, looks like he's back the next week. Looks like DK Metcalf is a straight up monster. That's what separates professional football players, I guess, from a small child behind a microphone on his fantasy football YouTube channel. I mean, DK Metcalf, a straight up dog going up against Arizona. It is a good matchup as well. But now dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go Dara McLaren at 21. I'm still not a believer in McLaurin. I know he gets there this past week. I know what happens. I still think this is a bad offense going forward. And when you get Jahan Dotson back in, then you have McLaurin, Dotson, and Curtis Samuel all sharing targets in a very bad offense. Really similar to how we were saying sell Brian Robinson a few weeks ago. Then you had a 3-man running back by committee in one of the worst offenses in the NFL. You got a 3-man wide receiver by committee once you get Dotson back in, but we are going to have to monitor that. Now our next guy, Devon Smith at 22. Kind of feel like he's similar to Gabriel Davis in a way that you are rooting for the spike weeks. Smith can command more target volume than Gabe Davis though, but at the same time, this is not an offense that's going to be throwing the ball in the second half against Houston Texans team that's not going to be competitive at all in this contest. So interesting spot. Now our last wide receiver in this tier, we're going to go DJ Moore at 23. Yes, you can tell by this ranking of DJ Moore that as someone who drafted DJ Moore in a lot of leagues, as someone who is sending up that prayer that DJ Moore is here to stay, that hell, it was just Matt Rule was the worst head coach in the NFL, that it was Baker Mayfield was the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. You remove them from this scenario, then all of a sudden this Carolina Panthers offense, even without Christian McCaffrey, is much better. I'm hoping that's the case. I have DJ Moore in way too many leagues, but I still think it's going to be a very bad team going forward. I think over the past 2 weeks, just been a small sample. He had a good matchup against Atlanta. Now I think he has a bad matchup against Cincinnati. But now dropping down to our next tier, we are going to be going with Romeo Dobbs in a great spot against the Detroit Lions. With Dobbs, you're going to have to monitor pretty much every receiver in Green Bay with their injuries. You're going to have to be looking at Christian Watson, looking at Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, obviously on the IR as is. But we said Dobbs was someone to start last week just because everybody was out in Green Bay. I think he's also someone to start this week because everybody's out in Green Bay and he has a great matchup against the Detroit Lions. Now dropping down to our next player, we're going to go Christian Kirk at 25. With Kirk, I apologize for calling him a mid-wide receiver 2 over the past few weeks. Clearly, things have degraded to a very far extent in Jacksonville. I mean, I thought Jacksonville was going to be a little bit better than this. Remember the hype with the Jacksonville Jaguars week 3 after the Los Angeles Chargers here. Going up against the Raiders, it's probably a game that's not too exciting. I don't know. I think the only player you want in Jacksonville at this point is going to be ETN. Now, our next guy, Juju SmithSchuster, 26, going up against Tennessee. Juju coming off the bye. They trade for Kadarius Toney. We talked about this. I think Toney is actually more of a replacement for McCole Hardman. Juju still kind of mans the slot here. He's been consistently drawing like 8 targets a game in KC. It's obviously some of the best quarterback play, if not the best quarterback play in the NFL. Interested to see how these wide receivers are deployed with Kadarius Toney coming in. Now our next guy, Rondell Moore, 27. Rondell Moore, phenomenal this past week. I think that he is that borderline wide receiver 2/flex play. Any given week, we don't have Hollywood Brown. Clearly, Brown's not playing this week. If you are looking at the matchup going up against the Seattle Seahawks, I think this is a very exciting spot. The thing is, if DeAndre Hopkins continues to get 13, 14 targets a game, is Rondell Moore someone we're confident in? Kyler Murray's looked very bad at times. Cliff Kingsbury's looked very bad at times. May not matter if they continue to push the pace of play, however. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go Garrett Wilson at 28. If I were to rank these wide receivers for the rest of season, Garrett Wilson would be a lot higher than this. I think rest of season, maybe you prefer Garrett Wilson over everybody in the tier above him. The issue is you're going up against the Buffalo Bills. The issue is you have Zach Wilson as your starting quarterback. You're about 2 touchdown dogs in this matchup. It's going to be a very hard time for your team to actually score points. So I am very worried about the environment for Garrett Wilson. Next guy, Adam Thielen at 29. With Thielen, you're betting on the touchdown. Clearly, he's had a touchdown rate higher than league average for a long time now. I mean, this past week, you didn't have a touchdown going over to Justin Jefferson, But at the same time, I mean, even though the Minnesota Vikings scored a ton of points, it's not like Thielen came away with anything because you had the Kirk Cousins rushing touchdown, you had the Dalvin Cook touchdown, you had the Alexander Madison touchdown. Kind of need them to start scoring the ball through the air a little bit more with Thielen. I mean, he's had 50 targets so far this season. It's 67 receiving yards this past week. I think you're just betting on the touchdown. Touchdowns haven't been here this season, but we know historically they are. Now our last guy, Devin Duvernay at 30. If Rashad Bateman misses, which he is, Rashad Bateman's going to miss. But at the same time, Andrews misses. We don't know that yet. That's still up in the air. If both of those players are out, I think you can move Devin Duvernay up to about the Rondell Moore range. I think you can move him to the top of this tier, the bottom of the next one. Because at that point, it's Isaiah Likely, Devin Duvernay, and that's it. Of course, I'm rooting for our guy, Devin Duvernay. Feel like he's the perfect best ball pick. I mean, if you took him in the 18th round of your underdog best ball draft this year, bravo, one of the best picks you could have made. Of course, you know I am rooting for our guy. But I think that should be it. Of course, thank you so much for checking out the video. Thank you for hanging out with me. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football, and take advantage of this player prop. I worked my butt off to get y'all this. The free bet on Derrick Henry, over half a rushing yard. You can check out all these player props on Underdog Fantasy. You are only going to get the Derrick Henry player prop if you sign up with promo code FLOCK with the link in the comment section, the link in the description of the video. And also when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $200. So go down there, deposit $10, code FLOCK, have $20 in your account. Go bet the 20 on Derrick Henry, more than half a rushing yard. But thank you again. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day and hope we get to see you in the live stream tonight.